What's going on, y'all? My name is John Haywood, and I'm a singer-songwriter from just south of Baltimore, Maryland, and this is Jam&Toast. I'm going to sing a couple songs for you here. And I'm going to start with one called Saint. This one's coming out pretty soon. I don't know where I'm headed, but I know where I've been. Taking all the mistakes that hurt and chalking them up to life lessons. And myself and I are doing all right this time. And they won't ask about my life now, but tell them I ain't who they say. 'Cause I won't be around that fast town. I'm gonna change my fate. I'm gonna wash my name, turn this sinner into a saint. I had a little too much on my plate. I got a little rough around the edges, and I ain't talked to God in too damn long. But I bet He's right where I left Him. And they won't ask about my life now, but tell them I ain't who they say. 'Cause I won't be around that fast town. I'm gonna change my fate. I'm gonna wash my name, turn this sinner into a saint. I got my feet still on the ground. Sometimes that's all that counts. And they won't ask about my life now, but tell them I ain't who they say. 'Cause I won't be around that fast town. I'm gonna change my fate. I'm gonna wash my name, turn this sinner into a saint. Turn this sinner into a saint. All right, this next one I'm going to do for y'all is it's called Happy Ever After Me. I wrote this with a couple buddies of mine, Brock Butler and Gabe Broussard. And yeah, it's a little country western kind of tune, and it goes like this. I heard the voice on the wind, settled my wondering about how she been since he's gone. Since he's gone, telling me she settled down with another man now. And she's moving on. But she's happy after all. She got what she needs and I got what I want. I'm running this land while he's holding her hand. I guess I'm finally wild and free. She found her happy ever after me. I've been saddled up and westbound on 300 horses with nowhere in mind. I ain't so restless since we mended fences. Now that she's doing alright, 'cause I'm happy after all. She got what she needs and I got what I want. I'm running this land while he's holding her hand. I guess I'm finally wild and free. She found her happy ever after me. Yeah, we're happy after all. She got what she needs and I got what I want. I'm running this land while he's holding her hand. I guess I'm finally wild and free. She found her happy ever after. She found her happy ever after. She found her happy ever after me. Happy ever after me.
Welcome back in to Triple Threat Studios. This is Jam&Toast. Honestly, I don't even know what episode this is going to be. We've been blessed with some artists recently that we're able to record. So here in the next couple of weeks, you'll see Mr. John Haywood on Jam&Toast. And hope you tune in for the whole toast session. We're about to get it kicked off. So grab a hold of them little Jack Daniels, guys.
Yes.
You're welcome to dump it in the coffee if that's your move.
Well, I've been debating on whether I just want to shoot it or not. You know?
Me, myself, I think I'm just going to shoot
I
it.
think I'm
It's
just going
not
to go
too
for
early
it now.
for it. Are these
Oh,
glass?
it's never too early, man.
No, yeah, we're on camera, so it's whatever time we want it to be. Because anybody could be watching at any time.
What time would you make it if you could make it any time
Ooh.
in the day?
Probably 5 o'clock, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, you gotta go 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock in heaven right now.
Yeah, that's what they say. Hell yeah. All right, well, hold them up. Here's the friends and family who know us well, but they love us just the same. Cheers.
Cheers.
boys.
Cheers. Oh, man.
That's high quality Jack Daniels right there, folks.
Yes, sir.
Woo!
Has anybody ever said that in the same sentence? Those two things?
I know I fucking haven't.
Oh, I appreciate that, boys.
Yes, sir. I guess we'll dive right on into it here, and we'll start with the easy stuff. Tell us about your hometown, where you from, what you grew up like.
Well, I grew up, Maryland's kind of a weird state, so, like, I'm like 15 minutes south, 20 minutes south of Baltimore, which is a big city, and, but I'm in, like, this little rural pocket, so I grew up, you know, kind of, we got about 6 acres or so. We always had dogs and riding four-wheelers and stuff, and pretty standard American living.
Hell
But
yeah. Can't beat that.
yeah,
Can't beat it with a
we go
stick.
camping out on the eastern shore of Maryland, pretty often, which I haven't done in a long time. We had one of those old pop-up campers out there,
Heck yeah.
and but yeah, man. And then over the last 10, 15 years or so, my mom got horses, so every time I go back to visit, which is starting to be a little more often now, I'm playing a bit more up there. But I get to go see the horses, and we got 2 dogs up that way and everything. But Maryland, around there is like, there's not a lot of, I don't know. It's like either like super wealthy, like if you go to like Annapolis and stuff like that, or there's just like dive bars everywhere, you know.
Yeah, there's no in between. It's a small state, so I guess everything has to be condensed.
It really is. It's. I think that's why, like,
You like that?
but like, if you go northwest, you can go to like the redwood forest, and if you go east, you drive through the pines out to Ocean City. So it's like
If you go east, it's almost like it feels southern. It almost feels like Georgia a little bit. And then you hit the ocean, you hit Ocean City, which is typical, eastern or northeastern, like beach town. And then if you go south, it gets pretty country, like down in like Chesapeake area and places like that. So, and then if you go west, you start getting into like DC area. Yeah. So another big city. So it's got like a lot of this stuff like crammed into a little sliver.
Real tight area there. Shit.
But
ain't never been to Maryland myself. Max, you ever been?
No, the Northeast as a whole, I have not avoided, just not ever been able to make it to.
We've been to DC. I know for a fact. We went on an 8th grade field trip to Washington.
Yeah, that's usually why everybody goes.
That was the first year we met.
Yeah, it was, man.
And Carter broke the bed, dude, in his hotel room.
Well, let me tell you what kind of conniving son of a bitch this guy is. This
wasn't just me.
Actually broke the bed with some other friends.
It was Nick Brown.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
Good buddy of ours, Nick Brown. Shout out. I have to send this to him and tell him we talked about him on a podcast. But he broke the bed, and then they all set it up real nice and told me to come in there and fucking jump on it. And so I did, and then I looked like a fat ass.
Oh, man.
First year in a new school, I was so worried, man. I was worried about the girls. They're going to think I was fat. I wasn't going to be able to get no fucking women. But it all worked out. I got hella bitches.
Broke a lot of beds after that, yeah.
Yeah, man, yeah. I'm in the bed breaking business. Jesus Christ.
I bet you are in the bread breaking business,
I am
fat
in
ass.
the bread breaking business. If there's anything I know how to break, it's bread. That's for sure. Well, we've been talking a little bit this morning, and we talked a little bit about this already, but the people don't know. So do you normally write with people, or do you write alone? Do you go through phases? What's your deal?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been a phased kind of process for me. Like when I first moved to town, I started writing a lot, and then I found my people, and one of those guys was Chris Andrucci, a good buddy of mine. He was one of the first people I met in town, and it was one of those things where like I'd get a write with somebody, and I'd text him and be like, "Hey, you want to write with this guy?" And then he would get a write and text me and be like, "Hey, you want to write with this guy?" And like we would always write together.
Oh yeah.
And we did that for a long time, a good year or so. And then I kind of branched off, did a lot of those 3-4 person writes, and then I branched off and started doing one-on-one writes. And I liked doing that for a bit. I wrote with a lot of different artists, and it was a way of like challenging myself and pushing myself a little bit. And it's all, it was a little bit more intimidating at first because I had some of those solo or like one-on-one writes early on, and it was tough. But then once I got my feet wet and did a lot of the bigger co-writes, I felt like I could handle the one-on-one stuff.
Yeah.
Which was cool because like we'd sit here for like 30, 40 minutes and just talk like this. Yeah. And then sometimes we'd write, a whole song. Sometimes we'd write a verse and then just like, go have another cup of coffee and just chat, but it was always just like really chill. And my philosophy was always, I never wanted to force a song. And when you get into the bigger writes, like typically you're trying to finish a song in a day and stuff, and which, has its perks. But, and then this year I've really kind of taken a step back from co-writing, and I've done a few here and there, but I'm really trying to get back to solo writing a lot. And also with, pursuing the artist thing, which I've done a lot this year. I've been in the studio a lot more, starting to put out music, and the writing side of stuff is just, it's a little more difficult right now because I'm trying to make enough money to where I can keep getting in the studio, and I don't got as much time on my hands. So
I understand that.
Yeah. The writing ebbs and flows for sure.
Yeah.
I know that like the last stuff I put out, it was like 5 songs, and like 3 of the 5 were written all, I think, in like a couple of days. Just, I was feeling good that week, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes in waves for me, for sure. I could see how going to a one-on-one write would be intimidating. I think the only one-on-one writing I've ever done is with Max, like we just said. I've known him since 8th grade, so it's like talking to a brother, or a close friend, it's a little different. I imagine when you're kind of pulling a card out and going to meet somebody
you never know how it's going to work out. The majority of mine were good, and just because I would go out to the rounds sometimes and find people that I like their stuff and ask them if they want to write, or maybe we met when we were playing around together or something, and you can kind of peg somebody. Like, I think I'd be able to sit and have a cup of coffee with this person, and that's kind of how I looked at it. If I like their style of music, and I like most styles of music, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but it was more so like, does this person seem like we'd be a good fit, like as far as personality and everything? And they really had too many bad ones,
Yeah, I get it. That leads me to an actually unscripted question, new segment by Mamitas here. Unscripted here, but it leads me to think that I read somewhere that you are a writer originally. You wanted to be a novelist. Is that true?
Yeah. I did. I was an English major in college, and which I started off like trying all kinds of different shit. I spent like 6 years in college trying to figure my way out, and then I landed on English, got my degree in that, and I wanted to be a novelist. And so rather than pursue my master's, I just started traveling around and wrote a bunch of journals and stuff. I wrote poetry and short stories, and I finished a novel after college, and was working on that for a while, trying to pitch that to like agents, and then I started working on another one when I drove around the country, and I went like coast to coast from Maryland to California, and I went like along the southern border, and I passed through Nashville at one point, and that's when I was like, I think maybe I'll come back here one time and like write a story about Nashville. So then, was it 2019? I finally came back, and I was just working on a book about songwriters, but really just about like Music City, and it was going to be a novel. And to do research, I started writing a couple songs. I had a couple songs that I had written over the years, like I'd maybe written like 3 or 4 songs, like from high school, because I took guitar lessons when I was like 15 or something. Right. But I never really did anything with it, so I could get by, and did a couple co-writes, went to some rounds, and then the start of 2020, I went over to Ireland to work on my book again.
Sorry, folks, had a little technical difficulties here in Triple Threat Studios, but we are problem solvers. We'll throw it back over to John here, writing a novel about songwriters in Nashville. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind that and what came from it.
Yeah, so I'd come through Nashville before and had the idea, and I just kind of bounced around town in 2019 and did a couple co-writes, had a couple songs I could play at the rounds, and then in 2020 I went to Ireland to work on my book again, and all I wanted to do while I was over there is write songs. That's all I could think about. So, and it was like, it was part of the decision there was not just writing songs, but the lifestyle of a songwriter rather than being a novelist. Because like, if you're writing books, you're mostly just sitting in your room, just kind of, or if you're out, you're just like observing people and everything. And songwriting, I feel like ever since I've started doing it, like, there's a lot more fellowship there. Like, I'm around people and I'm communicating with people more, and not just writers and stuff like that, but just complete strangers and all. You spend a lot of time at bars and places that you play at and stuff like that. And so I just kind of fell in love with the entire process and the entire lifestyle and all, and ended up making the transition. And in 2020 went home to Maryland and worked on guitar and like dug into music, and because I didn't really have like a broad spectrum of music I was listening to at the time, and kind of used that summer of COVID when everything was just locked down to kind of just hunker down and do my research and learn how to play guitar a little bit better and learn how to sing a little bit.
Such a writer. Do my research.
Yeah, do my research.
I, at the time, before that summer, I had a flip phone. Like I bought a smartphone in like college, and then I got rid of it because I hated it. So I got a smartphone that summer and got Instagram, so I could follow people on social media and in Nashville, and that was one of the things I did for research. But yeah,
Well, speaking of Instagram, you've sort of amassed a following on Instagram.
it's been good. I mean, I think it was last year. I was like, I really gotta buckle down on social media and figure out how I can, build a little bit of a following, reach people on there. So I did a little bit of research again, and really worked hard on that, and it's been great. I've been able to get some followers from that in my hometown. I've been able to meet people and communicate with people with people overseas, and there's a lot of people down in South America, like Brazil and Mexico and places like that have reached out to me, and because of videos that I posted and circulated around and stuff like that. And so it's cool, man. I mean, that's why I want to do music, is so I can reach other people and hear their stories and all.
Social media, is that how you're being able to play shows all over, just without, or do you know people there, or is it social media that's getting you listeners there that help you get shows? And
I think it's mostly, when it comes to the shows, it's mostly been word of mouth. But I do have some people reach out to me here and there that are like, we got a place, out this way, if you ever want to come out this way and play. That have reached out to me on social media, usually on Instagram. And I've actually got a woman that I'm going to speak to soon about playing a show up in Virginia for some veterans on my way up to Maryland in October. And she reached out to me on Facebook and was like, I like your music and would love for you to come up here and play if you ever want to come out. So sometimes it happens that way.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's cool that it's been pretty natural, organic, word of mouth. That's got to feel good, knowing that enough people saw you and was like, hey, that's worth the shit. I'd listen to that again.
Yeah.
That's cool stuff.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, man. I mean, when you get those, I've been able to support myself a lot from playing some gigs that just happened because somebody was like, you should meet this guy. He's got a bar up in this town or whatever. And especially in Maryland, I've gotten really well connected up there recently because my dad reached out to one of the bar owners, or he was having a beer at the bar one night, and he was like, yeah, my son plays music now and all this. And she was a bartender at the time, and then she bought the bar, Ferndale Tavern up in Maryland, one of my favorite places to go hang out and now to play at. But she hit me up and was like, if you ever want to come out here and play, I'll have you play a few shows. And so I went up there in July and played at that bar, which was really cool because I used to hang out there.
Right.
And I had a lot of people show up and a lot of family and friends and all. And then I had somebody else that I knew from a while back that reached out and was like, hey, do you need help with getting more gigs up here or anything? Or is there anything I can do? And so she got me another venue, and it's just kind of snowballed from there just because out of the kindness of people's hearts, they just want to help you out. So
yeah,
it's a big help.
Well, speaking of amassing a following, I've been following you, and Ghost Town in the Sky is out now, and over 60,000 on Spotify, man. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Man. Appreciate it.
It's a sweet song. So tell us about it a little bit.
Yeah, that was a co-write with a buddy of mine, Henry Gates. That was I'm pretty sure it was the first song that I co-wrote when I moved to Nashville to be a songwriter.
That's wild that you got that on the first stroke.
Yeah, man.
That's a good deal.
And that was it was I knew it was a cool song when we finished it. I went home and played around with it a bit and started messing with the melody and some of the chord structure and stuff and we got, when I went into the write, Henry had some great notes and some great lines and everything. We just built on that, and that was a song that over about a year and a half I kept going back to it and messing around with it, and it kind of taught me how to sing over time, because I got a bit of a range in that song, but in the end of the chorus, I hit that really low note, and I couldn't hit that before, and I was trying different ways to do it, and like this Johnny Cash thing for a while there, and like, and I remember one time I played a writers round, and I played that song, and I got off stage, and like the girl who was like this like world class singer, she was a terrific singer, and she was like, "You sound like you're struggling on that note a little bit," and I was like,
Oh.
well, not anymore. And I just kept working at it, and but it, and taught me how to sing, and it taught me, like, at the time I wasn't really writing outlaw stuff. I was doing a lot of folk music, and now like I do a lot of outlaw stuff, and that was like the first one that I wrote, and I just like over time I fell in love with it. I played it one night in my friend's garage. I was hanging out with my buddy Ryan Garrett and like some other friends, and I played that song, and Ryan was just like, "Dude, that's your best song." I was like, "Really? You think so?" And so I started playing it out more, and eventually got the hang of it. So,
hell yeah, man.
I love that song.
Speaking of the outlaw influences, who are some of the outlaws you look to? Some albums you listen to?
Yeah, when I moved to town, I didn't have a lot of music I'd been listening to. Like right before I moved, I dug into music as much as I could, but I ended up listening to a lot of Allman Brothers. A lot of singer-songwriters from the 70s, James Taylor, Paul Simon, guys like that. And but I didn't get into country. I just kind of fell into what I love to hear, and a lot of that was like a blues influence. Like, the Allman Brothers came from a blues background and all, and like that southern rock sound and everything, and a lot of folky stuff like the James Taylor kind of thing. But when I got to Nashville, I was like, I need to learn more about country music, and so I picked Willie. And I was like, let me just dig into Willie for like, and I did it for about probably 6 to 8 months. Like I listened to a lot of his stuff. I went back and I listened to his, I think the album was called Four Walls. I know the song on there was Four Walls, but back when he was a crooner, in a suit with the comb over hair and everything. And just kind of like followed his journey a bit. And then I'd always been a bit of a fan of some Johnny Cash stuff, but I started digging into some of his deeper cuts and all, and I still listen to a lot of it. Like I just recently got on to Waylon's album Hangin' Tough, which is an 80s album, and I'd never heard a lot of the stuff from that, and now I'm finding that, and there's always new things, because these guys, I mean, like Willie's got like 70 studio albums, man. Like, there's so much you can look at,
I feel like I just recently saw on the social medias that he had his 100th studio album that he released this year.
Really?
I think...
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either, which is a psychotic career. That is so much music.
Just working, man.
But Willie always did a good job of shining light on other songwriters, cutting some Townes Van Zandt stuff.
Yeah.
And... all kind of
he had a lot of covers, he's such a sick writer. I think that's pretty cool about him too, to just be respectful of great songs and do them his way.
Yeah, what was it? Was it Crazy that was an Elvis song before him?
Yeah, and Patsy Cline cut that one as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, he came in and did it, and everybody's like, "You're never gonna take that song." And he did, and now it's a Willie song. People don't realize that, like, it had those previous cuts and stuff, and like, he's just one of the guys that can do that. It's hard to do that. Like you're looking at Luke Combs now with Fast Car. But
one of my favorites is "Don't Get Around Much Anymore."
Yeah,
Ooh.
I love that.
Yeah,
great tune.
I think when it comes to Willie, there's I think it's called "Are You Sure," and I love that song. He talks about, if I remember right, he talks about he's looking at somebody that he's like in a relationship with, or somebody cares about, and they're a barfly, and they're always hanging out in the wrong spots, and he's like, "Are you sure this is where you want to be?" But it's cool to me because he talks about like being in the bar and being around people that aren't really your friends. And that reminds me sometimes of Nashville. So that's one of the things you got to be careful about. And like, I feel like in Music City, because
there's
a lot of
snakes
sharks
in
and
this
snakes
here
out there,
grass.
man. Yeah.
There's snakes in this here grass. You got to be careful. Let's talk about the two songs we heard today in your jam, "Saint" and Happy Ever After Me. We'll start with Saint. That's got a release date coming up pretty soon, right?
Yep, September 29th.
September 29th. Go out there and grab it, y'all.
Yeah, man. I'm excited about that one. That was a solo write for me. I wrote that on New Year's Day, like 4 a.m. And just reflecting on a lot of stuff I'd done wrong in the previous years. My first year in Nashville, the previous year, and I was going through a tough time. I was going through a breakup and everything, and I was just sitting there just kind of miserable and wrote that song. And so it's still to this day, like, I've been playing a little bit recently, obviously because I'm putting it out, and I forget how much like it hits me.
Right.
So definitely feel that one.
Yeah. And I can feel that you feel it. I think that's important. We've talked about that a good bit in every Jam&Toast. Is like the songwriters that I want to spotlight on this channel are the people that they give a rip about the songs that they're singing. They feel them. They're real to them. I think that we see that in this nation, people are hungry for that. I mean, Oliver Anthony, the Richmond, north of Richmond.
Yeah.
It's not technically sound. It's not perfect in every way.
Right.
But it's raw and it's real. People feel that emotion. Yeah. So I think you do a great job in that song, man. I can't wait to hear it all released. Hearing how well Ghost Town in the Sky was produced. Which who produced that?
Paul Eversold. He's
Eversold.
on Saint as well. So.
Well, I'm excited to hear that. Let's jump down to that other one, Happy Ever After Me.
Such a catchy song.
Love the hook.
Yeah, I wrote that with Gabe Broussard and Brock Butler, and walked into the right, and Gabe picked up my guitar, started that little Western riff, and then I had that hook in my phone, and I originally thought that one was gonna be like, this could be like a pretty cool like commercial hook or whatever. Maybe save that one for whatever, but I was like, I really liked what Gabe was playing, and I'd been thinking about that hook for a while, so I threw it out there. Gabe liked it, and we started working on it. And by the end of the first chorus, I was like, "This is my song. We're gonna cut this one day." And that wasn't the intention at all. Like, we weren't writing for me or really anybody in the room. We were just writing to write, and so we kind of struck gold on that one. Yeah. At least for me, like, I love playing that song.
I think that's a microcosm of an important lesson for artists in Nashville to learn is that sometimes just write to write. Yeah. Sometimes just write for you. Yeah. You talked a little bit about like Saint was a put away song for you, kind of a therapy song. We talked about therapy songs in the past on this here channel, and I think it's really cool to see somebody come around on that and be like, no, that's my art. That needs to be released. That's how I feel about it. Yeah. I think it's important to challenge your art to be true. Yeah. And real.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like with a lot of the co-writing around town, there's a lot of, I don't know, people like really stick to the rules a lot. And, what's the radio doing? Like, what's popular right now? Like, what are people looking for? And there's like a benefit to that, like if you're trying to get these cuts and everything, but at the same time, it kind of sucks because like one of the biggest rules in writing anything, but I learned this early on as an English major and like trying to write books and all, is like you got to learn the rules, but once you learn the rules, you can break them. Yeah. You can't just like break the rules without knowing them because then it gets sloppy. But like if you know the rules and then break them, so like every time I'm in a write and like, we have the word, blue in like 2 different lines or something like that. And people are like, no, you can't do that. You can only each word has only one place in the song. Like you can't double it up. And I'm like, look at what is it? Texas Tornado. Like the chorus of that song, like 3 lines end on again, and it's a great song. It's a classic song. So like, fuck the rules.
Yeah.
But once you know the rules, then you can say, we don't have to do that.
Yeah, you got to be in the club to disrespect the club. Yeah. Yeah, we're big fans of breaking the rules around here, especially in the Nashville community. And I think the one that gets under my skin the most is the 3 to 3.5 minute song. Yeah, man, some of my favorite songs, 6-7 minutes long. Yeah. Like, you're telling the story. Yeah. But I do think that some of it, like we had that caveat in there of, you know, if that's what you're doing to get cuts, then I understand it.
Right.
I think it's kind of a bold statement, but I think it's kind of a cop out.
Yeah.
Because as an artist, as a writer, you innately must have something that tells you, I have something to tell the world.
Yeah.
I have something to share with people. I want to reach people. I want to do influential things with my art.
Right.
And so if you're just doing it to get a cut,
Yeah.
you better watch yourself.
Yeah.
You're getting close to a line that you don't want to cross of,
Yeah.
I'm doing this for cuts or I'm doing it for money, because that's
Yeah.
not where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, depends on what you're looking for, you know, as a songwriter, I guess. I mean, if you're just trying to make a living out of it and, you know, get stuff on the radio and all, that's great. But for me, I've always wanted to do something different, you know, and like, I like being able to write something that fits that mold and could maybe get on the radio just because it's a challenge. And like, I could say I can do it.
Right.
But, and as a writer, like, I don't care what anybody thinks. Like, that's just, I do that for me. Like, just because that's in my brain, I want to be able to, I want to know that I can do both things.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, man, like, I want to break all the rules and, like, make something different, you know, because the world needs something different,
Gotta have something different.
you know.
Especially in the country music realm.
Yeah, man. Like, and music in general, like, in the pop scene and country music as well. Like, I feel like I've not been a big fan of a lot of stuff over the last like decade or so, maybe a couple decades even, you know. Like, I feel like we've lost a lot of the substance in our music, and I'm all for a good party song and everything, you know. And like, I like a lot of different music. I like a lot of the stuff that is out these days for what it is. But when it starts to dominate and you don't have room for the stuff that's different, and you don't have room for the stuff that has more substance, that to me is a problem.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, that's just the suits, you know, putting all the pieces in place and making it the way they want it to be. But
Yeah.
it's up to the artist to, you know, be bullheaded enough to where you're going
And
to...
maybe some of those songwriters that are writing for cuts and getting on the radio.
Yeah.
I know for a fact we've heard something to the tune of, I don't know if it was exactly this, but they know that's shit.
Yeah.
They know that's a bad song. But they wrote it anyway because it could get cut.
Yeah.
Don't write a bad song.
Yeah.
Write a good song and then say, this is what we have. You should cut it. Like,
Don't write a bad song. Good luck.
yeah, fucking, I've never wrote a bad song, man. No, anyway, I think that about does it for us.
Cool.
We appreciate you sticking around and working with us as we work together. That's all for today. I got my co-host over here, Max Woolery.
What's up?
We're happy to welcome in John Haywood.
Thanks for having me.
Keep your eyes open. September 29th, you got Saint coming out, and you can go stream Ghost Town in the Sky right now. I'm Forrest Carter. This was Jam&Toast, live from Triple Threat Studio. We'll see you next time.